One of the most influential books I've read is a book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's a very simple book to follow on the premise that the way we make money is divided into 4 quadrants. And it's worth you considering which of the quadrants you are in, and maybe considering which of the quadrants you need to get to. The first one is that of an employee. That's the majority of people in any country are paid for their time and their skill set based on the competition for that particular skill. So low skill jobs tend to pay low money, higher skill jobs pay more money, but they're still competitive. And this is the point. You are still limited to the amount of income that you can make. It's capped. It's capped to the rate in which somebody will pay you per hour based on the value of that skill. And now with the advent of AI, that is in question. And it's also capped by the number of hours that you're prepared or able to work before you get burnout and before you no longer have a real life. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee, especially when you get started before or after university, because that's when you learn the skills and that's when you gather the experience. There are some people, however, get to a stage of frustration where they think that by starting a business, they can make more money, but they, at this point, are confused because they tend to become self-employed. They go out and get the odd contract, etc., consultants, freelancers, and what they'll eventually find is that they're still capped by the same constraints, the number of hours they can possibly work and the rate in which they can possibly charge. But they've got the added challenge of finding that business. They've got the added challenge of administering that business, paying somebody to do the books or doing it themselves. So they tend to, in my experience, it's a bit like juggling plates in a circus. There's no end of things that they've got to think about, and therefore the hours that they work tend to be longer, and that can put strain on relationships. What they were really seeking was a business, and a business is where you've got other people working for you, and moreover, you've got a system in place, a process that takes care of everything, that generates leads, inquiries, that produces the processes that run the business. Because what you're trying to do, you're trying to work to begin with on the business instead of in the business. And that's the trap employees and self-employed people get into. They think it's all about them. They think nobody's going to do it as well as them. And they've got that vested interest, and they work harder and harder to create that business. And very often they forget the systems. They don't have systems to generate business. And again, that's why I think a lot of businesses fail. Cash flow can be another issue as well. A real business is probably harder to achieve because it needs time, it needs capital, and it certainly needs those processes and systems. And I like franchising, proven franchising, of course, because basically they're taking care of those systems. They have them in place, and if they're an established franchise, it's a proven franchise. And you will pay money to rent that franchise for a period, 5 years, 10 years. Remember, it's not yours, it's theirs, but you've rented the rights to that and the systems in place. And that's why franchising is very attractive. The nearest thing to that without the cost and the restrictions and the geographic restrictions are network marketing. And I know people that don't fully understand it or know somebody that's had a bad experience will poo-hoo it. But they haven't necessarily had a bad experience. You see, when people get involved in network marketing, it's a low cost. There is no cost for representing and being part and partnering with a company that has a product or service. They've got the invoicing sorted, the production, they've got the website sorted. They'll give you your own website, usually for free. So there's a low cost, and People treat it as that. It's easy to get into. It's very easy to get out of. And people don't treat it as a business. They're sold on the idea that by getting involved, that they will become rich overnight. And very often it's sold as that, which is absolute nonsense. It's a bit like somebody saying to me, join the gym, in 10 weeks you'll have a six-pack, but you don't need to do any work. And so I do that. I get sucked into the idea of a six-pack at my age, and I find that I don't bother to go to the gym. I don't do what's required. I skip certain things. I only do the things I like to do. And of course, I end up blaming the gym. That's crazy. That's crazy. So forget what you think now about network marketing. But there's other ways in which you can make extra money. So back to Robert Kiyosaki. I'm distracting myself. So you've got 3 quadrants so far: employee, self-employed, business owner. That's the one that you want to get into. But eventually, the 4th quadrant is where successful business owners move into, and that is investing. That's when you're getting the money to work for you rather than you working for it. And that's why wealthy people start to really make their money work, and they do that beyond a bank or a building society or an ISA. They put it into areas that may be risky, but that will generate good or better returns. Sometimes it's in a business, in somebody else's business. Sometimes it's stocks and shares. And so you've got the 4 quadrants there. Now, you don't have to have a successful business to invest, but you do have to have a proven system and process if you're going to move and take the weight off your shoulders. And now, more than ever, is the time to look at that. It's to lean into areas in which AI can help you leverage the time you're spending doing things you should not be doing. I've always been attracted to the idea of making money work alongside recommendation or a networking business. And I've got something at the moment that is generating very, very good returns. Is it without risk? Nothing's without risk. You decide not to do anything with what I'm sharing on here, there's a risk to that. You don't go and buy the book, you'll never know really. You'll carry on becoming frustrated with the system, with the government, etc. So first of all, I'd recommend you buy the book. Check out Robert Kiyosaki's videos on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It may give you a better explanation than I've done. But if you're at all curious about different ways in which you can create an income on the side without giving up the money that is being provided, because I think that's the biggest challenge people have. They go all in with any sort of business without realizing that the job that you're doing, or the business, the money that's coming in on your income, is keeping you afloat. It's paying the rent, it's paying for food on the table. You don't easily give that up to take a chance on something new. Hope you find that interesting. If so, share it, like it, comment on it by all means. And if you'd like a discussion with me about how you can generate systems for your business, and especially in the marketing area, how you can incorporate practical human AI into building your business, or if you'd like to look at additional income that could be very useful going forward, then get back to me. All the very best.